What about that? I'm so impressed by how, like, because to me, these pages are like almost like publisher ready, and you've done them in like half an hour. It's wild.
Thank you for the message. Yes.
Um,
Actually, so you've done a first on this in the sense of normally it's one page, and Roberto, I feel, was
this is,
so inspired that you got 2 pages out of it.
remember, oh, I love, yeah. That first panel on the second page, I love what you've done with the water, with man. No, there's such an ease to your art, and that it feels so organic. I know, I'm so impressed. It really is a delight to be able to watch you work for Bernard.
So I'll speak for him quickly. I've heard his response to such thing, which is thank you, is obvious.
But I know artists in particular, well, like all creative, right? We can struggle with getting like positive. It's hard to know how to respond to like positive.
Oh, for sure, for sure. He's in the chat. Perfect. There we go. All right, let me read out what he is saying. I don't see it yet. If you are in the chat,
Yeah, I'm gonna
nonetheless. So I know that he usually says is part of the reason that this comes out so slowly and so easy is because of the setting, right? Like if this were a paid work that had a deadline and all that, it's you don't flow as easily, I guess.
yeah, totally.
A lot more thought goes into this. Is kind of what we were talking about much earlier, where it's all about kind of where you're coming from at, right? So in this sense, like, yeah, we're just chatting and we're throwing a page together, and he ends up making like spectacular pages. Just he makes it look so effortless. But I guess part of it is that there's no pressure, right?
Yeah,
So,
totally. There's like yeah, they're like yeah. I mean, having deadlines and having restrictions are both like a blessing and a curse, right? Because like we talked about before, yes, I think before we started to record, like the idea that like having a deadline means you get it done, but then you've also got like the pressure of it, the pressure of a deadline, the pressure of other eyes and kind of like other hoops that you have to jump through.
Yeah, sometimes the perfectionism, you want to make the best you can do so everyone see it and you get the next job.
Yeah, totally big will blow up and be like the next big thing. Yeah, the idea of like, I remind myself a lot that perfect is like the enemy of done, right? Perfect is conceptual, done is real.
Yes. And I put in the chat that I had a different perspective of that, of the representation of you were talking about. It's a funny thing with the Argentinians because we don't care much about it. We sometimes we get represented like an X-Men first class when Magneto goes to hunt Nazis in Argentina.
That's right.
We laugh about it because when the sequence starts, says the name of the city, but the city is a coastal city, and the picture is like mountains, like
oh, that's so funny.
Completely wrong.
And we really laughed about it. But in other cases, we don't like to hear ourselves in movies. We don't have like the animated pictures dubbed in Argentinian. We speak Spanish, but we have like a different accent. Because I don't know, we heard ourselves with that, and it's funny to see a cartoon speaking like Argentinian, and we don't have many of those, but we had the first Incredibles, and there was a lot of famous Argentinian doing the voices. But
I didn't realize that's so interesting.
Sorry,
I didn't realize that there were so many Argentinian actors in that. That's so interesting.
Yeah. But it was funny that I haven't seen the last Netflix show that I don't know if you heard of it. It's like really big right now. It's the Eternaut.
Oh, I have to check it out.
Yes, yeah, I have. Yeah, I've heard it.
The science fiction. Well, it's based on a comic, an Argentinian comic. I haven't seen that, but usually my reaction is that I don't like to hear Argentinian accent on movies.
That's what, that's so interesting because I kind of feel the same about an Australian accent. I feel like when I hear an Australian accent, I'm like, oh, this isn't a movie. It doesn't feel like but I don't know if you have this of like, but I wonder how much of it is like because of like the like totality of American culture, where like to me like a movie is like everyone is speaking with an American accent, or maybe if it's a bit fancy, there's a British accent, but like I never envisioned like major media with like an Australian accent.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I've been wrestling with this concept for a while because like I hate hearing a bad Italian accent or a bad Canadian one for that matter. We don't say a boot. We drag our O's, but we do not say we say about. Yes, it's a longer O. It's over exaggerated. But the Italian one is particularly bad. So there was what was it, House of Gucci? My God, that was unwatchable.
Incredible.
Just why? Why? Just speak American. It's fine. But then you watch a show like Narcos where they're jumping back and forth. They're like, look, we're just going to speak whatever language we want. Like if they're Spanish, they're speaking Spanish. And if they're English, they're speaking English. And they just jump back and forth. I felt like that was somehow more like seamless than watching someone speak English with an accent and then speaking like American English and going back and forth. Like I'd almost prefer that, but I feel like that's not the way that most media is going to go with it, right?
Just interesting you talk about like the Canadian accent, right? And the people like Americans going with the boot and all that. It's interesting because so normally, right, when I'm in Australia, I can't tell the difference between an American and a Canadian accent. However, when and obviously the New Zealand accent is a bit similar to Australia, and like as an American or a Canadian, it'll sound the same as an Australian accent. Whereas to me, right, the New Zealand accent sounds completely different. But when I've been to America for a while, I struggled to tell the difference between Australian English and New Zealand accents, and I suddenly become very aware of the differences between the American accent and the Canadian accent. Super interesting how the ear just kind of like adapts.
Yeah, it's there's the thing with the Canadian one is like there's certain words that are a giveaway. Otherwise, like you can't really tell. So whenever I'm traveling, like I can usually, as long as I'm not wearing like a hat that says Toronto or something like that, just I'm not giving it away in another way. I'm usually fine until again I say something like about, like
Incredible.
you still worth money.
How long have you been in Canada for, Roberto?
Almost 6 years.
Incredible. How do you find Canada as like, as a, assuming immigrant, as an immigrant, right? Or you immigrated to Canada. How do you find it from that perspective?
I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
There's a lot more. Sorry. Now I forgot to speak English. there is a lot more of opportunities here, and I feel like I can do almost any job. And the conventions, as Adriano was saying, I still have to get my citizenship. So I haven't been able to go to the States, but I think that when I get that, the world is going to open a little bit more.
And to be honest, if you could pick any time to not go to the States, now's probably a good time to just stay in Canada. But I get what you mean. Like once you kind of the idea of being so close to another country, like sharing a physical border with another country, it's so wild to me. It's such an alien concept to me.
Oh yeah, Roberto's right on it too.
Yes,
like, literally
from the border.
Yeah, it's something, and that's kind of why the culture permeates over here too, right? Like even like on the TV, like again, elder millennial speaking. When we used to watch TV, the TV was all the American channels, right? Like we had our Canadian channels, but you go up the dial and it would be all the channels from Buffalo. So we were getting American ads and American content.
Interesting.
Early, right? So we were always inundated with it, which is I think why we're so sensitive about. And most of the country lives along the border. Like if you ever see a map of the population of Canada, it almost like emboldens the border line because there's just so many people who live along the border. It's kind of like a climate thing more than anything, but Yeah, so we're always just inundated with US everything, US everything. So we even watch their elections like they're
Oh yeah,
our own,
no,
like,
it's same
right?
here. No,
Yeah,
same here. At least like it's probably not as big as it is in Canada here, but there's certainly like at least the myself and a lot of people in my like social groups like there's a real kind like we've got to watch what's happening here, but we also really watch quite closely what's happening in the States just for my work, but then also because the whole world is changing, but historically Australia and yes, had a very, very close relationship. And we tend to be like, and I imagine Canada might be a bit the same where our political cycle tends to be kind of 4 years behind the US. So whatever's happening there, we kind of expect to make it, another 4 or 3 years.
yeah, kind of. Yeah, we more than anything like to do opposites. So if we have, so we have ours is very plainly named. So there's liberal and conservative. Those are like the two main, and then there's all their third and fourth and fifth
No, I
parties.
love I
Uh,
love how easy it is to understand.
it's very sparse, although it's a little bit confusing because the liberals are more center than, anyways.
Well, no,
But
our Liberal Party here is actually the Conservative Party. It's so confusing.
yeah,
Very yeah,
so ours is like very clear, left, right,
yeah, yeah.
and then usually we'll like the province is conservative, the federal is liberal, and then they flip. And that's just constantly like
Yeah,
we don't like to have like a monoculture politically speaking. So as much as whatever's happening in the U.S., it's typically that and they never seem to sync up, right? So we always seem to have like an election in the province, and then a year or two later, we'll just do the opposite. And it's almost always that we're always just like flipping sides, like so that there's not one party going like bottom up, right? It's weird. I don't know. Politics are weird, but yeah, it's been interesting in that way. But I had been to the U.S. since all of this nonsense started with the tariffs and things, and I will say everyone's been super kind. Once they find out, I've only been to blue states thus far, so I don't know, but generally speaking, I've gone over. I've said I'm from Toronto, and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm sorry for all the trouble we're causing you."
I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, I think in politics and regimes change, but like people are people, and I think for the most part,
And like that's the thing, right? Like there's a lot of what's the word, like jingoism and stuff happening where everybody's picking a side and everyone hates each other. It's like, man, if you just talk to your neighbor, like you may not agree on everything, but for the most part, like people just want they just want everybody to like live their life, like have a good life.
Really,
We may not agree on what that is all the time, but generally speaking, right? Like you want good for yourself and your neighbor, you would hope them. And I think most people are, right? But again, it's just how do you get there? I think that's where we're kind of going in different directions sometimes. But again, I don't think it's malintent in a lot of cases, but
no,
it sure feels like you're online all the time.
hardly, no, 100%. I think we also forget, like, politics is kind of fascinating to me. Well, I mean, everyone, I guess, but like, what's kind of interesting to me is like the idea that we externalize our politicians and our government, and that we act like they're separate from us when they're just us, and but like, but that to me is like super interesting because there's kind of the like obviously to an extent it is true in terms of like they're dealing with a different they know all the complexities of diplomacy, and certain positions are baked into certain like stances baked into countries that are really hard to get out of or change, um and stuff like that. But I think it's also like our way of kind of like being like, well, I didn't do that, the government did. But it's like, yeah, but they're just like, we are the government. So I think sometimes it's a way of like of us surrendering power and not having to like take responsibility for what government. But then on the flip side, the government's kind of interesting because it only really represents a very small aspect of us, particularly if you look at like, here we have a lot of one issue parties, and parties that are like they'll be like animal justice party, and they're just interested in like one or two very specific issues, or like the legalized weed party, which is like, well, you want to do that one thing, like,
Yeah.
so they kind of also represent one aspect of us. So like, regardless, I guess the point being like, you go to a country with a really progressive leader and meet some real conservative jerks, and in this, well, I guess kind of America, vice versa, because the government just represents such a specific kind of like part or specific concern that people might be having at the time.
Yeah, and if I'm being honest, like the way I typically vote, because it's hard to represent every value you have in one party. Like I voted for every party. It's not every party, because again, I'd be voting for all the fringe weird stuff. But in terms of the larger parties here, there's three. I voted for all of them at some point, provincially or federally, because it's usually that I have to pick and choose and say, you know what, we really need this highway. Or we really want this subway. Well, this representative wants to build that subway for us, so they get my vote. And maybe you don't agree with everything, but I'm going to get the subway out of it. So
Yeah, that's the other thing about navigating that space as a human being, right? Is like that balance between ethical purity or like your actual ideology and like what can feasibly get done. Here we have preferential voting, which makes it
we've been dying for that here.
Sorry?
We've been dying for that here. But yeah, go on.
It really is a game changer to be able to, for the most part, vote for the party that ideologically you align with, but then also be pragmatic is really good. But here, in our latest election, we had, our center left party, which is a centre liberal party, and they had a lot of people that I disagreed with. But then on the flip side, more left leaning party, the Green, the most pragmatic, which I'm sure is the same in a lot of places, and I think the reason for that thing, right, is that particularly with like left leaning parties, they come out of a protest culture, and qualities needed to like protest adequately are very different to the qualities that are needed to be a politician. Like,
Yes.
our Green Party was founded by a guy who got known because he would like chain himself to trees to stop them from being cut down. And like, in order to do that, right, you have to be like so determined in what you believe, and so like, to play like chicken with like a bulldozer. Like, you've got to be really like unwilling to compromise, and that's what you need to be a protester and to be an activist. But to be like a politician, those qualities are basically going to mean you're going to die.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Right.
Yeah, but I think like as people, I relate to that as well, right? It's like I have really strong views on things, that are like, I don't want to compromise on this, and but then at the same time, it's like, but it's in the world to navigate this, like I have to. I was saying earlier about like working for a company that did training for Amazon. It's like the Amazon's a big company that treats people really badly, but also like I gotta eat, and like all jobs, almost every like no company is 100% ethical. So it's like, where do you draw your line?
Yeah. Yeah. That
pragmatism and ideology, like who wins in that fight?
Yeah. There's always going to be some kind of compromise. So it's where to draw the line, right? Where do you choose that? I'm willing to let this go to get that, right?
Totally. And what are you, willing to get? And this is something I kind of talk to left-leaning people about, like, I don't know, this might be being the overly positive, but when you look at like a lot of the election of far-right populists, is a lot of the time, people act like, oh my goodness, everyone is, you voted for this person, it's like, it's terrible and racist and all that. And look, and I definitely think like they compromise on some pretty important issues, but I think the silver lining of it all is that like people will often vote for these right-wing autocrats because they're saying like, we're going to make cost of living, we're going to meet your basic needs. And in order to have those basic needs met, people are willing to compromise and throw some of the most marginalized communities under the bus, which absolutely. But my kind of feeling on the flip side is that, what? If those on the left are able to be like, hey, we're going to meet your basic needs, but then also we're really going to advocate the trans people and immigrants and stuff, I actually think that these, elections of right-wing autocrats show that people will be okay with that, and that people actually accept that if their basic needs are met. So to me, that's like the flip side is like as a progressive, as an unabashed progressive, like we lead with cost of living issues, but don't compromise on the other stuff. Like I think that is a winning. I think that's to me was the silver lining of it all.
Yeah. Yeah. And that seems to be the problem in a lot of cases. It's usually the argument's always like, well, you're doing fine, or you've been doing fine generationally. Which that's I understand where you're coming from, and I agree. However, I need to get groceries.
Yeah.
Right? Like I appreciate that, but it's what's the pyramid, right? Of like the pyramid of need or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're at the bottom of that pyramid, you're gonna say, you know what though? Like I understand I want to do all those wonderful things, but until I can afford eggs, which is like that was the theme of the US election, right? Eggs are expensive. Right. And that's what drove it was eggs more than. So everybody's like, how did this happen? It's like, because one was saying you're fine when they could see they weren't. And the other said, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to do all this other stuff that I said I was going to do and didn't get to finish, but I'm going to fix the thing that you're worried about.
Yeah.
And the other one was fine. Right? So it's somehow so simple and yet, that, yeah, it's,
just to bring it back to the comic, Roberto, that second page.
Listen, we got way into a tangent, but it was a good conversation.
Oh man, I feel like so many podcasts have been going on recently. It's just very hard not to talk about
just everything that's happening.
Yeah. And like as much as everyone's like talk about politics, it's like I think more than ever now it feels like it's interacting with everyone's everyday lives in a way that it doesn't.
Yes, and again, I think like we were saying, people are people, so it's like. It's one thing if we came on here to have an argument, but it seems like we're part of it helps that we're probably all in the same like sphere mostly, right? But that said, like we're coming at it from a humanist way of looking at it, not like I'm going to convince you now why 100%. My point of view is the correct one.
Yeah, just to bring it back, that second page is stunning, Roberto. I love the light. I'm such a sucker for like when artists do like the lightning is the white lines cutting through the inks. I just think that looks so sick.
Thanks. And it's pretty easy in digital format.
Yeah, of course.
So you can't do more real ink.
Are you pretty much always working digital now, Roberto, or do you still some curious stuff?
I do some traditional stuff now and then, but it's like it's really practical to do it digitally because I don't have to scan anything. Yeah. It saves a lot of time.
Particularly, I guess, with like, since all workflows are digital anyway, now, and also with like, editorials, it's probably nice just to be able to have to like, to easily go to the layer and amend something.
Yeah, totally, yes. But going back to the pages, I just did whatever. So if you want to,
honestly,
no. If you want to like make the structure of the story with the conflict and everything, I can change.
Honestly, I might be the worst guest for this, but I just love the pages. No, I love it. I love the.
That's easy. That's how you get two. It's the secret.
Incredible.
Yeah. I can keep drawing if you want. No, I have like 45 minutes more.
I love what you've done. No, it's just really, really a real treat just to be able to kind of like chat and just watch you work, Roberto. Again, I think a comic. The processes, right? The different labor involved in comic siloed. We don't often get to like watch the other links in the chain. Or the real treat getting to do that.
Yeah, for me it's the same. I like to hear the writers talking and chiming in on the drawing.
Yeah, so do you mainly like Roberto with your stuff? Are you mainly working with writers these days? Do you like writing your own stuff or?
I wrote a couple of short stories, but I haven't drawn them yet. And I have a long one, but I'm struggling with the ending, so it might take a while until I finish it.
Yeah, fair. No, your art is so fantastic. Yeah, and I saw you worked for pretty much everyone, like DC and I think humanoids as well.
Yes, I worked for the French market, but the last thing I did it's now like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, okay. Classic comic.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about it a bit before, like we started the record as well, is like the idea of just like the comics landscape seems to just completely change every couple of years. And at least from like my kind of experience has been like this idea of breaking in is like both like it's a helpful concept, but it's also a complete myth because you kind of like, particularly with like big two work, you would probably know better. It's like you break in and you get a job from one editor, and then that editor
Yes.
goes away, or they don't have any more work for you. You no longer have an
Exactly.
in at that company. Suddenly you have
Exactly what happened to me.
classic comic.
Yes, I met Dan Didio like 10 years ago, and he got me in, and I did a couple of issues of conversions. The event DC did when they moved from the East Coast to the West.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then the majority of editors that I work with weren't working anymore on DC because they didn't move, and I stopped working. And now I'm trying to get contacts again.
Yeah, it's such a perpetual process. Like whenever I've just started, like whenever I have anything new come out, I literally just email every editor I have. And if I don't, and if there's an editor I want to like send stuff to, I'll just like guess their email. Like I'm at that because otherwise it's like, yeah, you just like, and that's something I say for like a lot of new creators is like, don't be afraid to get an email as long as you're polite. Like as long as you're polite and expect to be ghosted, because that's what's going to happen a lot of the time. Like, you know, when you know one email of the company, you know them all.
Yes. Yeah, they almost have the same structure.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and obviously, like, do that, you know, be careful with that power, but it is, you know, and I've definitely had gotten work and started relationships through just like, yeah, getting an email, reaching out, you know, with like a friendly intro email and be lucky enough to get a response.
Yes, that's what I'm doing now. I'm reaching every editor I found. I send a portfolio, and if they answer, thank you. I'll send you updates on my portfolio. If they don't answer, they not the only portfolio anyway.
Yeah, totally.
Keeping that Rolodex spinning.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's such a big part of it, right? Is like you just kind of got to be, you've got to be relentless in a way that it can be a little bit exhausting.
Yeah. I just learned it, yeah, like yesterday, that because I have the I have been lucky that I got work on the French market, and the French editor just keep giving you things if you answer. But I was tired of that. I tried to do something else. I tried my Kickstarters, and I like abandoned the French, and now I'm feeling like, oh, I'm in the middle of the ocean. I have to reach any coast right now.
That's so interesting as well, right? Because I seem the French market doesn't really talk or talk to the US market all that much. Like they seem kind of a little bit like siloed because there's always amazing French talent that often doesn't break through and like
Yeah. Well, I think you have, like, in the States, on the American comics, they have a French. Sorry, they have a few French artists. I don't know if I think Oliver Coipel is French.
oh yeah,
or not.
yep, yeah, Oliver Capil.
Who else? Um, who else? Well, I'm forgetting it right now. But I know there are a lot of Spanish.
Oh
Like
yeah,
the Spanish.
Elsa Chat. I'm gonna mispronounce her last name, but Chatlia, Chad, who did
She did the Hillary one just now, right?
doing a book with Tom Everlasting Love with Tom King at the moment. So she's another big name like French artist.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but on France they publish a lot of American comics. DC and Marvel, they are publishing in France too, but
Interesting.
not the other way around. I think you can see a few Metal Hero. No, Metal. How do you say it?
Humanoids.
No, Metal Hero Land is the French, and it's heavy metal.
Oh, heavy metal. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. That kind of seems to be the main melting pot of like European artists getting access to the US market.
Yes. And then there are the classics, or the very famous artists that you get published anywhere.
Of course. I mean, you know, Tintin, Tintin,
Yeah.
Obelix, like always in print, and it's kind of
Yeah.
universal.
Yeah, what was wild to me is that Mickey Mouse is very big in Italy. I
So
didn't
interesting.
realize. Yeah, that a lot of the Italian artists that like end up going pro have touched Mickey Mouse at some point, and that's like the book to get on if you want exposure in the US. I never would have thought that, but apparently, yeah, it's a real big thing in Italy. So
Well, I know like a lot of those like classic Disney characters, like Uncle Scrooge, and like characters like have quite with the comics quite like an interesting pedigree, and like still hold a lot of weight when you wouldn't necessarily think they do. Like I'm like, who wants to read Uncle Scrooge comics? Apparently, a lot of people.
mhm. Yeah, and it's like it shows a level of like professionalism and consistency, and right, like it does that work for you. Saying like, this artist can do the work, right? Like
Yeah,
this artist
like
can.
yeah, but particularly with Disney characters, right? Is like you're kind of showing you consistently deliver the character being on model.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right. But yeah, it's wild. It's I never like I've heard it so many times. I heard it the first time I heard it was he's doing Batman and Robin now. DiMaio.
Oh yes,
There you know. And he was saying he started on Mickey Mouse, and then I just kept hearing it over and over.
very interesting.
Right? But it's just funny, but whatever it takes, right?
Yeah, no, 100. It's interesting. It's something that like it's very odd here, but in Australia, I don't know why, but the Phantom is huge. Like the Phantom is like, even though the character is not Australian, but for some
Yeah.
reason, I think it was just like it was very easy to get here in Australia, the comics and stuff, and it's just huge here. A lot of Australian artists can get this style, like doing the comic. Like that is kind of seen. Oh, you're drawing the Phantom. Like I told my stepdad I was doing Superman. He did not care. I told him that. I told him about like that I might be like doing something related to the Phantom, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, if you got that, that would be incredible." Like just the possibility that maybe I could write the Phantom with like, well, that'll change your career, and I'm like, I don't think it will, but I appreciate it. But yeah, like the reverence. But my point is like the reverence that that character is held here, and the ubiquity of that character. Like
The Phantom wasn't like based on Borneo, Sumatra, or something like that.
I think so. Yeah, but I think the island within the. I think I could be wrong with that. The island that he lives on. I mean, the whole Phantom thing's so funny because like obviously of how like inherently colonial and like mildly problematic the whole thing is. Where it's like the trope of like it's called like Mighty Whitey, which is the trope that like Iron Fist is a good example of this trope, but like there's all these people of like color who'd be practicing some kind of like skill for their entire life, and then a white guy comes in and just immediately masters it and becomes the best out of all of them. And the Phantom, like Iron Fist is a great example of that. The Phantom is that as well. However, yeah, no, yeah, the Phantom is super interesting and yeah, ubiquitous here.
Weird.
It's like comic stores will have like come to them to have like a Phantom like standee in like the window and stuff, and like
Wow.
character.
How is that project is still going on, or
Oh, so with the Phantom thing, that's just something I might be. I might be pitching for something in that space, but nothing locked in yet. But it was just like even the thought of like, oh, maybe you might be able to write the Phantom.
and have you seen the animation that takes place in the future?
Oh no, I haven't, but I've heard of it. That like, is it like Phantom like not Twin because that's Spider-Man?
Yeah, Phantom 4000 something. I don't know. Then there's a year, but I don't remember which one.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I feel like what really draws me to the Phantom, like the legacy. I love legacy characters. So interesting. Like what is baked into the mantle, what does the character bring to the mantle is super interesting. And the Phantom, yeah, it's definitely interesting in that space because I'm trying to think when the first Phantom was, but I feel like it was like 14 or 1500. So it's kind of very much the character is very much baked into like the medieval period and the Renaissance period, those kind of timelines. Yeah, sorry, it's super interesting.
Thanks.
Do you want to make balloons or?
Look, I'm going to be lazy and say I love it as is, but we really did learn because I
You got double the art out of it too. So it's
yeah.
like,
Look, like I said, I might be the worst guest ever for this show. I'm just like old school. I love it.
no, I would say probably like a third of the people that we have on, we will be like, does this even need anything? And it's like,
That, that's the
so you're in good company.
that's the biggest thing as as like I think a comics editor. So much of in the way of the art, man. Like I particularly like I think people with comics writing get really caught up in like what is on the page. You know, the cap like in terms of what part of what written words from the script on the page, the dialogue and the captions and all that. But like I don't know, to me, like so much of it and so much of the job as a writer is just to guide the artist is the visuals. You know, to me that first like expression just does need to be words because everything I want is carried in that expression.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a visual medium,
Yeah,
right?
no,
You gotta let
100%.
it do its job. If you want to be wordy, there's other mediums for that, right?
100%. I know. I always think of wasn't it Chris Clement just like basically didn't trust his artist and just over like there were captions on every page and really heavy dialogue.
Yeah.
I'm like
Describing things you can see plainly. Yeah.
yeah. Well, like why are you doing comics then? Like if you don't trust your artist, that's like the the baseline level of doing comics that you need to be able to trust someone else.
Oh, 100%. And I feel like we went from that to like Bendis, which again, Bendis can do Bendis, but he has like a very like TV style of dialogue, right? Like very wordy, very verbose, but there's like a rhythm to it. And then that became the style for a while, like through the 2000s and that. And again, if that's not your thing, maybe let the artists do their job, right? Like,
Totally. Cool. I mean,
yeah.
I've many times tried to get into like Kevin Smith like comic writing, and the walls of text always put me off. It's cool. That really resonates with them. They're really like, but for me, I'm just like, just let the image. Like, why would you? And again, I think in the comic writer, laziness is a very good attribute because it's like, why would I write it when like, why would it?
Yeah.
Why am I? It's done. Why am I double handling this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I like
Sure.
when the scripts are talking to me with as an artist that you can do here anything that you like, or
No,
do
100%.
you remember that time we did this? Maybe you can.
No, totally. And I think that's the one thing I really love about comic scripting, even more so than like, because when you think about like the audience who reads a comic script, it really is just like the editor and the artist. And the letter, obviously, and maybe the colorist, but like not that many people. Whereas, like, even a film script, which this in the same way working for me, that's gonna be looked over by like studios, by actors, by so many different people. But there's such a personalness to a script, and like I'm sure other writers as well, but like I will when I know the artist, like I will refer to them by name in the script. Like I want them to feel like I'm talking to them, that this script is just for them because it really kind of is. Like the other people are welcome to read and I want them to be able to understand, but I'm really writing for one, the audience of one.
100%. And like you said, like a film script is going to go through hundreds of people, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
we're all over the place.
Like it doesn't
And
have that, like a comic script, it's a very functional author. It does not have that intimacy that a comic script does.
yeah, exactly. Right. Like there's a difference. There's a difference of the audience in terms of like when you're writing a comic script, it's just a conversation, right? Where film script is a working document. Everybody needs to know where to be when. They need to know what to build. They need to know how to dress everyone, right? Like there's like a whole production, literally,
Yeah.
that is happening based on the words that you're putting down. Where comic script is just like, hey, what do you think this is going to look like, right?
Yeah, no.
Like it's literally like you talking to your friend and
Yeah,
asking
and
them.
what I've enjoyed
You're
in this experience is like I think it brings like scrappiness and the immediacy of comic into light in a really nice way. Actually seeing like that come out live and just like obviously this is an accelerated process, but like that's what happens to come if you write it down and a few days later an artist drawing bring it to life. That immediacy is really wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's the difference of the medium for sure. And that's the fun of comics too, is that like, again, a film, you're going to write it and then maybe it gets made if ever.
Yeah.
And if it
100%.
does, it'll be 2-3 years from now. Right. And it's going to be totally different from what you wrote because it's even going to go through a number of writers by the time it gets to the end of the line. Right.
No,
Where,
exactly.
yeah. Right. A comic script, it's more or less like what you and the artist kind of decided to put together in the editor part. Right. Like that's more or less what shows up on the page. Right.
Yeah,
So
there's a real, there's just a real, I think, simplicity to it that makes a simplicity and accessibility of comics, I think, that makes it, at least for me, hard to go to other media.
yeah,
You
that's
know,
fair. Right. Unless you're going to write a novel that then it's
like,
all you and your editor is going to help you guide you. But like,
like many comic writers, I dabbled in prose, but just compared to comic, like even just the time it takes to write a prose page as opposed to write a
yeah,
comic page, it just takes so much longer to get the ideas out. And I think because you need to be a bit more granular, I find like with writing comics, you never really top level view because the art is carrying a lot of the emotion, whereas you actually have to put that on the page as the writer in prose. And it's just a slower, more granular process. Whereas, with I don't know, with comics is just maybe, an immediacy. You can say like a character runs and the artist will bring the motion and the expression of that panel, whereas you have to bring that when you're writing prose, and have to bring, all those visual elements your words. It's so much harder. And it's again, I think it comes down to the laziness of like, it's just,
it's
comics
totally skill and it's completely antithetical to what you're supposed to do in comics.
yeah,
Right. Like, it's like
totally.
we said one thing, right? Where don't describe everything. It's being shown. Here, it's like you have to not only describe what's happening, but their motives and their feelings and
Yes.
their thoughts and you spend a lot of time developing character where you don't have that. You lean a lot on tropes in comics, right? And you lean a lot on past knowledge and like everybody knows who Superman is, so you don't have to explain it again,
Totally.
right? Like we just get into it. Superman's doing this now, right? Where a novel, it's like, no, you have to establish why they are where they are today and why they feel the way they feel today.
Totally.
And maybe a conversation with somebody that has nothing to do with anything, just to show you some insight into that person.
And that's
Right?
whenever I talk to like novelists, the first thing that kind of comes up, right, is like with prose novels when I talk about like, oh, have you ever thought about doing comics? A lot of the time, one of the things that come up is like, no, I'm too much of a control freak, and that idea of control is really interesting. And I think that's what I love about comics is so much surrender and leaning into what what your artist is going to do in a way that you just can't, improve. You're really your hands on the strings. I love that in comics, a lot of like the skill of a great writer, like putting ideas out there and then surrendering to what's and then leading into what's in it. Very wonderful kind of like flow, and I don't know if awareness is the right word, but like being in the moment with comics and especially when I don't know, yeah. But I just the more I make comics, the more I only want to make comics.
I respect that. I respect that. Yeah, there's like a discovery to it, right?
Yes,
There's like
but yeah, I love that way of putting it.
yeah, you want to like inspire the artist and then see what they come up with. That's your job as the writer. It's not to, well, it is to plot and to build character and do all that, but less so than it is to just inspire your artist to make, one or two amazing pages without any prompting.
Totally.
But
I know, or even like give, in art, I think particularly like in comics, right, where it can be anything. You can draw and you can write and it can be any kind of story. The artist is kind of sorry, the writer is the kind of that comes in like, all right, here are the feds, here's the restrictions of what we're gonna do. And can kind
yeah,
of like create the space in which everyone's gonna play, which I think could be super helpful, particularly for an artist if they just kind of feel overwhelmed by all the ideas and all the possibilities.
yeah, exactly. Right. You're creating the rule set and then letting them play. Right. That's the idea.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and again, Roberto, I love this so much. I love what you've done with this. What an absolute treat it's been to see you.
Yeah, it turned out really good. Well, I think with that we have a perfect endpoint.
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
You segued it very well. So with that, again, you're a first here because you got 2 pages out of Roberto, and they turned out
Incredible. I love
amazing. So
That what's happened when you give me too much freedom.
Oh, I will. No, I've loved it, Roberto. This has been, like I said, like truly a delight to watch your work.
right on. Yeah, I'm gonna start distracting the guests more often so we can let you freestyle it. Like, right on. So with that, Christof, I'm gonna give you the floor to push whatever you're pushing. This is coming out, remember, in July. So whatever you got coming in late July is what you
yeah.
want.
So, yeah, I mentioned up top the California Love Anthology, spelt with a like Superman's name, so KAL-EL-Fornia Love is out in July 30th. So it'll be out about. I'm really happy with the story that Passenger Kobe got to tell. They let it features Jimmy Olsen and no less than 3 gorillas. I don't want to spoil what it's about, but the I guess the premise is that Jimmy Olsen runs into his ex-wife at a Hollywood party, and his ex-wife just happens to be a gorilla, like an actual gorilla, and we kind of take it from there. But yeah, I'm so still kind of like absolutely floored by what CC let us do. You know, they were generous, free with what we could, and I'm really proud of the little story we created. Yeah, it was kind of every note I like to hit. You know, it's a lot of comedy, and then also some real kind of heartfelt moments brought from some fairly specific events in my life, which I was not expecting would kind of play into it, but ended up doing it. So it was yeah, really. I'm so proud of the comic and everything. There's so many other talented creators in anthology. Well, like Brandon Thomas, Brian Camilla, Dave Wilgoz. Sorry, Dave, I probably your thing, but yeah, it's a really it's gonna be such a wonderful book. So I encourage everyone to pick it up from their local.
Right on. That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. So yeah, coming very soon. So if it's not on your pull list, get it on there.
Yeah, so July, July, just to confirm, July 30th date. That'll be
July 30th.
The
Right,
time
it down.
comes out, it will be unfortunately too late to pre-order. But like, yeah, head to your comic shop and be sure to pick up your copy.
Right on. Right on. All right. And with that, Roberto, your turn. Take the floor. Let them know where you can find you.
Okay, you can find me on robertoviacavaillustration.com, and probably I will have Nathaniel Fox on Kickstarter. This is a story in the vein of pulp fiction like Indiana Jones or Dog Savage or even King Kong. So if you like those kind of adventures, I draw the covers. The script is by Rodolfo Santullo, that he wrote Voyager, the other comic that I wrote that I had it on Kickstarter. And I'm talking too much, so let's do some. Let's go to you, Adriano.
There's no such thing. I'm glad we got a lot of Roberto content in this one, because normally he's busy dry right till the final moment. So it's good we got to hear your voice a little bit today. You always hear a lot of mine, so I was also happy to take a bit of a break. You can find me. I'm at Pesto Comics, PESTO Comics.com. Very easy to find. The campaign for From Parts Unknown 4, which was the end of the series, would have just ended. So you'll find that on the website, pestocomics.com, if you want that. And the pre-launch for the sequel to, we'll have it handy, I do this book, Naked Kaiju Woman. The sequel to that should be in pre-launch on Kickstarter. That'll be launching in August. So keep an eye out for that. And with that, I want to thank you guys, both Roberto for the amazing art and Christof for the amazing inspirational conversation. Yeah, Christof, thanks for coming, man. It was a good conversation.
What is thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, we got a wonderful 2 pieces of art, which is a first. So really, really cool to see that. And yeah, we got to hear a lot from Roberto, which we never get to do. So yeah, had a lot of fun this time out. Okay, so with that, thank you all for watching. It means a lot. You know where to find us. instantInkpodcast.xyz. That'll take you straight to whatever we got going, whether it's Substack, Patreon, or whatever. And you can sign up and you'll get pages straight to your inbox. So all you got to do is hand us your email and we'll send you pages like the 2 great ones we made today. So be sure to check it out there. And with that, we'll talk to you in a week. We'll have a new guest here and we'll do it all over again. With that, thank you very much. Have a good one.
All right, thank you.